Zanat invented the very fine sense of touching and the feeling.
Okay, so you can squeeze 2 millimeters from the top, you can squeeze 2 millimeters from the bottom.
We do the prototype. We basically use it to always do it in maple and then stain it just to meet
I believe the human sense feels the beauty as the function.
My name is Emir, I'm an architect. And with me is today, of course, Orhan Nikšić and his brother Adem, who's in the backstage giving support. And I got the opportunity to lead this conversation between two of us, not voluntarily, but they just tell you're gonna lead the conversation, and you have
as we usually do.
Yeah, you have to say what the boss is saying. And I'm going to try to talk to Orhan. We know each other for quite some time about the story that's behind the, I would say, very successfully story about the family tradition, family business that was started, well, long time ago. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Orhan, who's CEO of the company and a brain mastermind behind the Zanat brand. So I would like to ask opportunity to, first of all, how many of you are familiar with the Zanat? Ksenia doesn't count, you don't count, so nobody, okay. This is just to know how to approach the history, so we don't repeat things over. So because nobody knows in the audience, can you please tell us, I would say, the history of the, I would say, the company of your family business?
Yeah, sure. Our town, Konjic, is known for a tradition of wood carving that originated sometimes in the 19th century, we don't know exactly when, in a small village just outside of the town. Actually, it's a village where we recently bought land to build a bigger production facility, sort of to make a circle that's 150 years old, to return our production to that village. And they were not producing at that time commercial objects. Wood carving was a skill that was learned by the families to decorate objects in everyday use. The most sophisticated object that they made at the time were dowry boxes, and that was the only piece of furniture that was made. But then some more ambitious, more talented, more visionary craftsmen from this village approached the authorities in Sarajevo. And Bosnia and Herzegovina at that time was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And they wrote a letter to the Austro-Hungarian government in Sarajevo asking to get formal education in arts and crafts. And the way Austrians were systematic and methodical about everything, they sent an emissary to the village to write a report about the craft. The report said, no, this is quite primitive, it's small, but it has a potential. We should invest in educating these people. And this really started a wave of change. It transformed this craft into a commercial activity. These first woodcarvers who were educated in Sarajevo started opening their own woodcarving schools in Konjic. And based on the World War I began, Austria left. But based on this knowledge, as many as 36 woodcarving workshops opened in the town. One of those was the wood carving workshop of my grandfather and his brothers. Basically, they learned the craft from their father, who just learned it as an amateur, but never developed a business. And they all developed successful business. My grandfather made furniture, and his main market, he sold his pieces throughout the territories of former Yugoslavia and the Balkan. Belgrade was the biggest market at the time. In fact, the biggest collection of his pieces that we know today is preserved in the Ethnographic Museum in Belgrade. We were recently in February doing a photo shoot in the Museum Yugoslavia for our latest collection, and we also found a lost piece, a beautiful box that my father was asked to make within 48 hours.
Keep to the track. History
for President Tito.
We're gonna talk.
So basically, I gave you an introduction into the roots of the company. My grandfather and his brothers made a company quite successful. You can still find their furniture in many urban homes throughout the former Yugoslavia. We are still receiving pieces of my grandfather's furniture to repair them because they've become heirloom objects and they're very often passed through generations. So we have a collection that we bought up from a family of Belgrade, which is now on the list of national monuments in Yugoslavia, and it also has a very interesting story.
Where are we now? At former Yugoslavia, right? What happened then? So it was your grandfather, your grandfather?
Yes.
Which name is Adem also.
No.
This is the Adem the second.
Adem the second.
And then there's your father, right? Who led it from...
Yeah, it was my father and his brother. My grandfather's workshop was closed during World War II, and then it was nationalized after World War II. And for a little while, actually, you couldn't conduct private activity in Yugoslavia. It was very difficult. But then they realized, small private companies are the only way you're going to preserve the craft. So they started liberalizing a little. And my father and his brother, they decided they want to reopen the family business and continue the tradition, but they could not have one shop and have employees at that time. So even though they worked together, they had to register separately.
Yeah. Okay, and then your brother took over, right? Actually,
yes. Basically, up until the 90s, when we entered another war in Bosnia and the former Yugoslavia, company was made through the socialist period. It was access to capital was more difficult and was mainly making smaller objects like souvenirs, but that enabled us to preserve the skills, the craft. My brother, and then it started liberalizing. My brother Adem studied architecture with you, and he joined the family business in late 90s, and at that time the production of furniture resumed, access to capital became easier, but the company was still making basically reproductions of pieces designed by my grandfather and his brother, and also some pieces designed by my father.
At that time, you were what? You were where? You were doing what in the field of economic, right?
When I'm left-handed, and my brother and I always used to help in the factory. My father made us do work there, and I I wasn't seen as particularly talented, and my
Actually,
father
you're
said
too left-handed.
that you need to go educate yourself well if you want to survive. So I hated his advice. I went to the United States and I got degrees, and then I was working mainly in the field of economic development, sustainable economic development. I spent a number of years internationally with the World Bank, but always was talking about my brother, about the family business and what is the future of this business, what is the future of the craft, and what should be done about it.
Yeah, actually, when I met Orhan through his brother because we were studying together, and we met in the late 90s, right? So beginning of the 2000s.
Yes.
Yeah, and we started to do some experiments before Zanat even came to light, to realization.
Well, it was born out of those experiments.
Yeah.
Slow birth process.
Slow, but it was a slow burn, I would say. So it was a good decision from your family to send you out to educate yourself, right? So if they didn't, we wouldn't have this now. So basically, tell us about. So the company name is actually Rukotvorne, which goes for the handcraft in Bosnian. And by that time, when you realized that something, first of all, tell us. I don't know if anybody asked you in a number of panels. What was the drive to start brand Zanat within the company? What was the main drive to be able? Was it the money or to? No. I mean, what was behind it? You didn't just wake up one morning and say, "Okay, I'm going to start this new brand for nothing."
Well, it wasn't the money because I was making a lot of. Well, it was money in a way that I already saved enough that gave me degrees of freedom to take risks and to experiment. But we wanted to do something entrepreneurial. I always wanted to do something entrepreneurial. And we sort of tried to give our own stamp, a new meaning to the company, to the business, to make it relevant in today's context. One, maybe the most obvious option would have been just to modernize everything, to abandon the craft, to make production more efficient, and to learn the skills and the know-how to make completely more. But we had a strong attachment to this craft, and we believed always that we can do very interesting things using this craft and doing something complete that feels contemporary with universal appeal, something that's sort of timeless and tactile with the craft, and we realized that the value of the craft, which I've come to realize later, many people don't understand. The value of our craft is not just repeating the same motif over and over, and that's traditional. That's the value is in the skills of wood carving and what you can do with it. And I think that we've shown that you can add, even today when machines can do nearly everything, skilled human hands can add value to the product. You have to add value if you want to be commercially valuable. This value has to be perceived by those who are buying the product, and that was our objective. Of course, we had lots of hypotheses, and we were adjusting along the way, but the main objectives have not changed, and but we have just been developing along that vision that we developed for ourselves from the beginning.
So it's 2000 and I would say 14, right?
Yes, 2014 when we started.
Okay, you wake up one morning and say,
and,
what a fresh day, I'm going to start Zanaat today, okay, right? And tell to the world, how was it to start Zanaat from scratch? So what was the road? So you decided to do what? To marry the craft with the design and to see, and how did we do that? How did you or in the company did that?
Well, the main decision that first I was that we need to bring design, high-end design into the company. That if we want to make objects, we have to work with designers who can innovate the products, who can start experimenting with doing experiments with the technique, and of course we realized from the very beginning that Bosnia is too small a market for what we want to do. That we need to focus on bigger external markets, that we have to start to export from the very beginning, that we have to show our products and find distribution channels globally.
So basically the craft is still within the company and it's done as it was done like a long time ago. And I remember last month we were in Milan, right? And we had a discussion with Oscar about some sort of patterns, and Oscar asked us, like, why don't you do it with the machine? So why don't you do it with the machine?
Certain things could be done with the machine, but as I just said, people really perceive, and there are certain patterns. Pattern has become more valued. Tactile surfaces have become more valued. We think this is our natural, tactility is an essential human need, and we live in a world that is increasingly more digital. We crave tactile, and I think we are compensating by making furniture that's more tactile materials, textures added, and so there are people also who are starting to implement certain patterns with machines, but you can really you can tell the difference, and our clients can tell this difference, and we are not just doing it for the appeal. People will always want to do things with their hands, and when you're doing things with your hands, you can always improvise and change things. And people, if something is done with machines, usually it becomes mass-produced, and we see it everywhere. It becomes boring. I mean, even when in our company, when two people execute the same pattern, it looks different if it's done by two different people, because everybody has their own handwriting in wood. I remember once two people were working on a bigger table. One was carving it from one side, the other was carving it from the other side. And when they started, it looked the same, but when they met, you realize that these are two different halves, because everybody has their own signature.
So tell us where the Zanaat is today. So what Zanaat is doing today, and how is it leaving the impact in the world?
Well, It's been a huge transformation since 2014. When we started in 2014, there were 14 people in the company. The average age of a craftsman was close to 60. Now the average age, there are around 60 people from 14 to 60. The average age of craftsmen and craftswomen, 30% of, at that time there were only men, now 30% of are craftswomen in our company, and the average age has gone from 60 to 26. We are collaborating with some of the leading designers of our time. They're approaching now us. They really find interest in exploring their creative potential through the medium that we have given them in wood carving, because there's another layer of creativity. And when they get a brief from us, the briefs always say that wood carving should not be a decoration to a finished object, that it should be the essence of the product's design. When we started, 95% of what we did was for the local market in Bosnia. Now 97% is exported. It's created opportunities for young people. When we started, also unemployment rate in Bosnia was at 26%. It also, I feel, it gives dignity and confidence to, because in Bosnia, after what we've gone through, people have lost dignity and confidence. We are losing young people. They're leaving to work in different countries, feeling little hope about the future. I feel that in microwaves, we are also restoring this hope and confidence. People know that something that they've worked on is being appreciated, rewarded. It's bought by connoisseurs of design and craftsmanship, and it also, that gives them back their confidence, dignity, and hope, I think.
So since we are talking about design and everything, maybe just for the sake of our guests, explain how the work process with the design, because in the former talk we heard that if you wanted to be the best, you have to work with the best. So how is the process with the designers working? You mentioned that. How was it to start? Well, you have to say it's like very unlikely that somebody from Bosnia sends an email to designer and say, okay, yeah, let's try to work with this company, right? How was it in the first year, in the second year, and how is it now working with designers?
Well, initially, I guess we were pretty ignorant, but we were, there was beginner's luck. When we approached a couple of leading Scandinavian designers asking it to work, I wrote a long email with our vision and what we want to do and where we are now, and I guess we got a little lucky. And I remember at that time when we launched the first collection, a journalist was commissioned to write about a design brand from Bosnia. And she said, I thought it was a mistake. It cannot be a design brand. We've also learned how, along the way, how to work with designers. My understanding of design has obviously increased, and that was part of what made the whole journey really interesting for me. I had a lot to learn about design process, the design world. But from the very beginning, the idea was, and it still is, to develop a community with designers, a family of designers with whom we collaborate, and that we pick the designers that we work with, not because of their talent. Of course, we want to work with some of the most, but also who can contribute to the mission and vision of our company. And so far we really have been, we work with designers who really value craft. Michele De Lucchi doesn't need another brand to work with. Naoto Fukasawa doesn't need another company to work with. But they really become a part of our culture and part of our mission, and that's also, I think, been very important for our development, how we choose designers to work with.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the mistake with the journalists. So basically, in 2015, when we had the first exhibition in Stockholm, right? You had a journalist that thought it was a mistake that is a designer brand, and maybe you can just make a comparison with what happened in the last article that was published in New York Times. So it's from the mistake to the explanation about Milan Fair or what?
Yeah, of course, since then. Many international design magazines have written about Zanaat and what we are doing and the craft, so that's nothing. We were quite happy that in just last month we were in Milan at what's the world's biggest design event, exhibiting at Salone del Mobile. And New York Times wrote a piece about the Milan Design Week and the highlights, and half of the story was about Zanaat and what we do. And the journalist actually came to visit, and she said she was fascinated by the story and seeing photos of the product, which one often gets disappointed. I'm really glad that I wrote the article now that I see the products in person, because stories and reality do not often match.
It wasn't commissioned, right? The story wasn't commissioned.
Well, I don't know if you can commission stories, but we wanted to offer a very small gift of appreciation, but apparently the New York Times, they cannot take anything.
Any bribe, right? Since we are in Belgrade, and since we are talking about this, somehow things connect. And a few years ago, we were here visiting the Ethnographic Museum, right? And you found what? In the Ethnographic Museum of Serbia, right?
Yeah, there a whole collection which I mentioned in the beginning of my grandfather's, and it's really great to see that these pieces are still in use. They're not only kept in museums; they're kept in use in families. When we did the last photo shoot, we brought one of these chairs back, and that's a big. In my view, when we speak about sustainability and that's one of the key aspects of sustainable production is its product longevity. When we launched Zanaat, the idea was that we can make products that can last as long as our grandfathers' products are lasting and hopefully become heirloom objects.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to ask the next thing. What is Zanaat doing in the field of sustainability, and how you? I think there is many ways that Zanaat's working with sustainability, and can you explain a little bit that?
Yeah, since I've been more interested in sustainable development than I was in design. Design was sort of a hobby, and crafts was hobby. Working for a number of years in this field, when I decided to leave that world, I didn't decide to leave sustainable development. I left World Bank as an entity, but tried to bring some ideas and philosophy of sustainable development and to build Zanaat as a model of sustainable company. And that's what we've been discussing from the very beginning. And I was this morning we heard about lots of greenwashing. You know, we hear the word sustainable all the time, and I also hated when people just focused on carbon emissions, and of course it's important, but humans and companies, with whatever we do, we have a much larger footprint, a footprint that goes much beyond carbon footprint on our environment, footprint on our communities, a footprint on the culture. And I never thought it's possible to define certain narrow targets and to say, yes, we tick the box and we achieve this. It's a process of continually striving to do things better. With Zanaat, we always set some goal. One of those goals was to preserve this valuable craft, which now has been inscribed on the UNESCO list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Remember, when we did this, then we realized, okay, but how do we educate more people about the value of this craft, about its history, about its past, the present, and future? And then we decided also to build the wood carving museum and would want some award. And also, you know, we are always trying to innovate. There is no waste in our production either. Actually, this is a good. Here you can see my father, who was supposed to be with us today. Unfortunately, he couldn't come for health reasons. He was really looking forward to being here today. But here you see him. He's 89. He's still working in the company using very small pieces of wood, which would have normally ended up in waste, to make an interesting table designed by a Bosnian designer. We even have a product that utilizes the shavings used by what called Centeners. It's a fragrance which is soaked in this, and you know, sustainability is an endless process of continually trying to improve the impacts and the footprint that we leave as individual human beings, as entities, be it companies, and being. Yeah.
Just for the record, this was not rehearsed, so we just got lucky with the photo. Yeah, so we said grandfather, great-grandfather, grandfather, father, sons. So what's Zanaat 5.0? How do you see it? We talk about Industry 4.0
well,
now.
The fifth generation, and that's my children are a bit smaller. They haven't started, but my brother's children have already learned the craft,
money
and they even learn how to make a little bit of money by making small souvenirs and selling them at the local crafts fair. So there's an additional motivation for them to preserve. But as you know, we always we still have, we are fortunately young at our hearts. We have lots of ideas which we want to realize. And if we realize half of those ideas, I think it will still not be bad. We hope Zanat will become and Konjic will become Europe's wood carving capital. Maybe informally, it is already the biggest wood carving operation in Europe. We want to show that by using these traditional techniques and the crafts, that you can do beautiful things, and that this craft and other crafts have not lost their relevance in the digital world, that by preserving crafts, we can do lots of good things. I mean, crafts also naturally lend themselves to sustainable processes, and anything that people have to spend time with the material. It requires knowledge of the materials that they work with. They're a lot more intimate with materials than robots in big industrial facilities, and it changes our consciousness about the materials that we work with.
Great. And to wrap up today's talk, I would just add that Zanat is trying to wake up all the senses, right? We have a touch, tactile, we have a visual, we have done the things with a smell, and to finish it up, we would like to just give you opportunity to hear the rhythm of craft, right? Like the
sound of Zanat.
Sound of Zanat.
An elder British South African filmmaker who does music videos. He's been working for a long time with David Gilmour of Pink Floyd, and I met him, and he said once he told me that he would like to do something for Zanat. And I said, of course, when we are as rich and famous as David Gilmour, maybe we can do. But he said, you don't understand. I really want to do something. I don't care. So I asked him if he can make a film that portrays the sound of Zanat. And he's come alone and spent a few days in the factory recording various sounds. All the sounds in this short film are actually from our production facility, and I think he's done a brilliant job.
the floor is open for questions.
I thought it was very fascinating how you rephrased what a company is, and also how it is too narrow, how we look at things like footprint, etc. But in relation to that, how do you think about scale, the scale of a company or growth ambitions? Like, how do you think about that? Or what is could there be like, do you want to grow Sanat? Like,
we want to grow, and we have grown.
What is growth?
Well, growth is not just, producing more. We want to grow in all aspects. We want to grow in terms of knowledge, in terms of also passing the knowledge. We want to have a bigger presence. But growth is not really okay when we realize that when you are doing things internationally, and we also realized from the beginning that we have to be an international company to do what we are doing, because, as I said from the beginning, Bosnia is a very, very tiny market. So you, to a certain size, you have to grow, because it takes costs, as you know. But we don't, beyond that, when we reach this, we're still not there. We don't have to grow that much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.